I'd like to call this committee meeting to order of the Land Use and Planning Committee. Uh, I see we are all here except Pan Comrath is on Zoom. This agenda was posted in the office of the county clerk on the 15th day of June 26th. Notice was sent to the West Bend Daily News, Express News, WIBD, WMBZ Radio, WTKM Radio, My Community Now, Hartford Times Press, Kewaskum Statesman, and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Please rise with me and join in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we will start with the consent agenda. This is last week's second. There we go. All right, we have several cost sharing agreements under the consent agenda at the start of our committee meeting. Maple Woods Dairy Farm LLC, Linda Strauss, Pamperin Family Irrevocable Trust, and another one for the Pamperin Family Irrevocable Trust. If there's no objections, we can move on. Seeing none, we will go ahead and move on. We have also the minutes. Any changes or revisions on the minutes? Seeing none, I will consider them passed.
See any minutes?
There's
They're not in the packet.
okay. I've been informed that those will be included in the next meeting. That was an oversight. That moves to introductions, community development and information. Okay. All right, we will start off with 3A, introductions, community development, land information, and UW extension. Ms. Silsky will be presenting. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So I'm going to present just an overview of the Community Development Department and the responsibilities that we have. Very high level. I did provide quite a bit of information, but I'm not going to go over all of it. If you do have any questions as you go through this, by all means, please just give me a call. So there are 6 main areas of community development. The first 3 that I've highlighted, Next Generation Housing, Heart and Homestead, and the Brownfields Redevelopment Program. Those 3 areas actually report to the County Executive Committee for any approvals. But the rest of the areas for community development obviously report to Land Use and Planning, but I wanted to provide you with an overview of all of the areas that we work on. So the first one is next generation housing. The goal here is to provide attainable housing, 1,000 next generation housing development dwelling units by the year 2032. For any development, that means that 40% would have a sale price of $340. Another 40% would have a sale price under $360, and then all of the homes would have a sale price under $420,000. I did include a dashboard for Next Gen Housing in your packet. So far, we have 185 dwelling units that have been funded. And of those that have closed, 48% are from individuals or families that have resided outside the county that have decided to move into Washington County. So in addition to this being a good housing program, it's also a very strong workforce attraction program as well. And we currently have 4 developments going on that are active. The Oaks of Jackson subdivision, that was the original Next Gen Housing development. Skyway Park subdivision has been closed. All of those homes have been built and sold. Also in Hartford is the Partridge Hollow subdivision. In Kewaskum, we have Regal Place condominiums, and then we have a new development, the Bartondale subdivision in West Bend, which is 12 units. The next area for community development is our Heart and Homestead. So this was launched in April of 2024. It provides $20,000 down payment, and those recipients earn that $20,000 over the first 5 years of home ownership, either by volunteering or by donations to our participating agencies. This program is co-managed by EDWC. EDWC works with applicants, goes through the underwriting and through closing, and then at the closing, that is the switch between the recipient working with EDWC and then now working with Washington County. And then we meet with the recipients and then pair them up with participating agencies to start their earnings process. I've also included a dashboard for Heart and Homestead. So far, we have awarded over $3.2 million to 167 recipients. Of those recipients, there have been almost 20,000 hours that have been volunteered and $121,000 donated to our 87 nonprofit agencies. So this has been an extremely successful and well-received program. The next program that I want to highlight is our Brownfields redevelopment. This was established back in 2013 when we received a US EPA grant for $600,000. And since then, we have received an additional US EPA grant for assessment and then also a revolving loan fund through the EPA as well. And this is in addition to the county funding that has also been provided for this program. So far, we have 61 acres in Washington County that have been redeveloped utilizing this program, and an additional 3.1 million of investment in either abatement, demolition, or cleanup, and an additional $115 million in investment in construction throughout Washington County. And I just want to say that of all the programs that I've worked on, the Brownfield Redevelopment Program is by far one of the most successful intergovernmental cooperation efforts that I have ever been a part of. All of our cities and villages are part of this process, and they all come together to talk about which of their properties should be redeveloped. We have an inventory that was established, and then they determine the funding for those properties. The next area that I want to cover is long-range planning. So we do long-range planning for the county. This would include our multi-jurisdictional comprehensive plan, any amendments to the comprehensive plan, our park and open space plan. We completed a bikeway and trail network plan. And then just most recently, at the end of last year, we updated our farmland preservation plan. We also work with other departments throughout the county and help them out with some long-term planning, such as the Aquatic Invasive Species Plan for the Natural Resources Department, Land and Water Management Plan, and even the Hazard Mitigation Plan with Emergency Management. The next area I want to talk about is municipal planning. This is part of the county shared services program, and we work with our local governments. So far, we have 4 local governments: Richfield, the Village of Jackson, Town of Addison, and the Village of Kewaskum that our senior municipal planner works with in doing some long-range planning. We just updated the comprehensive plan for the Town of Addison, working with the Village of Jackson on a sewer update. And in Richfield, we're working on updating a park master plan. The last item that I had, last area for the community development is the workforce and education. We haven't done a lot of outreach with that program yet, but it is still part of the community development areas. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Supervisor Mary?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Deb, for the very thorough report here. One thing I've noticed as we go through the next generation housing and some of these other programs, there's always one municipality that never is mentioned or never seems to be involved, and that's Germantown. Do they have a particular problem with our programs, or what kind of feedback are you getting from the leadership of the village of Germantown as to why they're not involved in some of these programs?
Well, actually, the village of Germantown is involved in some of these programs. Our brownfield redevelopment, they have a seat at the table. Yep, and we also worked with them on utilizing the US EPA assessment funding for the redevelopment of Saxony Village, which is a pretty popular residential area in the village of Germantown. And I've also had discussions over the years with the Village of Germantown staff on next generation housing as well. So,
But you said you've had discussions, but we don't, their name never seems to come up and we're trying to do this in Germantown or that in Germantown, but their name never seems to come up. And I'm just concerned, are we having a lack of participation or a deliberate lack of involvement from the village authorities and the leadership there, that they just don't want to be involved because they don't want that kind of housing in Germantown?
I have not gotten that sense. I think that when the right opportunity comes along, the community development director in Germantown is very much aware of next generation housing and the opportunities that it creates. And I think that once the development comes along, that he probably will be thinking of next generation housing. Not all of our municipalities have next generation housing. I think it's a new program. I mean, it's only been around for a few years. And I would anticipate that as we move forward, more municipalities will be engaged in next generation housing.
I'm just concerned not so much as our outreach to them as to their response back.
Hmm.
And I'm not reading much about that there's anything, a whole lot positive coming out of the village. That's why I wanted to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
Any other questions? Supervisor Krebs?
Thank you. Deb, for the Hardin Homestead, program, the one slide says there's about almost 3.3 million that's been, since the launch of 2024
Mhm.
in that program. Is there any available funds for that program to date, or what?
Yep, so
Because I know there's always rounds of like the applications, like what's actually the current status of that?
Yep. So the current status is we had launched just a couple months ago with the remaining amount from last year because there is a 90-day elimination period where like if an individual they need to have either a contract to build or an offer to purchase. And if they apply and they get accepted, they have 90 days to get one or the other of those. If they are not able to do that, then those funds that have been set aside for that recipient then come back into the pool of funds. So we had some funds come back in addition to the $500,000 that the county board allocated to the program. And in the last round, just earlier this year, oh, I don't have that specific number in front of me, but there was all of those funds were allocated because as part of the program, and this was a decision with the county executive committee, it was determined that we were able to do some overprescription. So we were seeing that about 30% of the applicants We're not able to get those in those 90 days. And so this last round, we had enough funds for so many applicants, and then we added 30% to that. So it was a total of 54 applications, with the anticipation that 30% of those would drop off. And so then all the funds would be utilized.
Okay, so as of now, this round of funding or this year, calendar year's worth is probably expired or exhausted.
Correct. Yep.
So would the next round then be coming up in 2027 then? Or-
Potentially, unless it turns out that more than 30% drop off. And then, depending on how much is available, then we may have a second round this year, but we're not gonna know until that 90 days is up.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Deb?
I just can't believe, I just can't believe the Oaks of Jackson, all those lots are sold. Is that true?
Yes, if you're looking at the Next Generation Housing dashboard, that is current, as of, June 5th. And all of those lots have been sold.
Really?
Yep. It's a very successful program.
The
Mhm.
one that- Could you comment on the status on the top of that subdivision map that I think are townhomes or condos? Are they just not marked sold because they're not technically,
They're not completed yet,
or
right?
they're not completed? But are they part of the developer's criteria for meeting the pricing points?
Correct.
Okay, I couldn't remember if those were or not.
Yes, those were 340,000
Okay.
each. And then we also have where you see Outlot 6. The Village of Jackson is currently under negotiations with Hillcrest for the development of that outlot as well. We anticipate 20 units at 360,000.
Very good. Anybody else? Carol has a
I'd
comment?
just like to add one more comment. I'm not sure where it all came from, whose minds put it all together, but I think the homestead and the first generation, next generation housing
Housing?
are phenomenal programs.
Yes,
Absolutely
they are.
phenomenal programs.
Yeah, they are both amazing programs, and I'll have to say that the brainchild, I think, is the county executive. But it took about a year of almost weekly meetings with myself, county executive, and Christian Teschlock, just talking about how all of this will work. So, yeah, these are very well-received programs.
I'd like to think that other organizations and agencies with and without government are looking at these and saying, hey, this is a model we could pursue.
They are.
I'd like to think that that is happening.
Yep, that is absolutely the case. I would say probably on a monthly basis, either myself or my staff get a call from either municipalities within Wisconsin or municipalities out and counties outside of Wisconsin that are looking at next generation housing in Hart and Homestead. I've been on numerous conference calls with, just last month, I was on a conference call with a county in Pennsylvania that was interested in this. So,
Well, let us know when you and Mr. Shulman get invited to the West Wing and make sure we get good press.
yeah, you bet.
And I think something I'd like to add is that, you know, these are working class people that are gaining housing and taking jobs in our community. And so I think it's a win-win. I always love to see that. Having good workers come in and our jobs being fulfilled, moving our tax base up, it really helps us to become prosperous. So this is all part of a much larger plan that has a lot of different legs to it. And it really makes us a successful community. So it's a great plan. All right, any other things for Deb? All right, thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Stilsky. We appreciate you. Whoops, excuse me, I'm sorry. The chairman. Go ahead, sir.
I heard
this morning from the executive that Congressman Fitzgerald is advancing a bill to piggyback on our idea. So it is catching on. And also any who have extra time in the next few days, watch the executive committee meeting from last night. We had a great discussion.
Yeah.
We went back and forth and it was what a constructive meeting can look like. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
West Wing idea isn't so bad, is it?
Well, I just wanted to piggyback off of that comment. I read through those today at the request of Lonnie. And there are parts that were literally taken out of our original next generation housing framework. Word for word. So,
Yeah, and I'll also piggyback off of the chairman's comments. Yesterday's meeting, if you missed it, you missed a lot. Next generation housing, every year we have to look at it, we have to update it, and there might be changes coming forth. And if you really want to get more information about that, watch yesterday's executive committee meeting. We had a rousing round of discussion, and a few very valid points were made. And I think some really good ideas were kicked forward. And so we could see something coming out of that fairly soon.
mhm.
So
Yep, we anticipate in the
Thanks so
July
much.
meeting. So, all right, thank you.
we got land information in next.
So good afternoon. I think we all know each other, but just to make sure, I'm Eric Damcott. I serve both as the county's land information officer as well as the director of GIS. So when I'm wearing my director of GIS hat, I actually report to the executive committee. GIS is a department of four. GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. Working with me in the GIS department is Mike Vanderson, and our GIS coordinator, and Pat Walker, our GIS analyst. The other GIS analyst position is currently vacant, and we're actively working to refill that position. So generally, the GIS department does not include projects. The GIS budget includes our staff, as well as the property insurance and interdepartmental charges from IT. When I'm wearing my land information officer hat, I report to this committee, and that's where you see all the projects that we do in our department that require funding. So the Wisconsin Land Information Program, or WLIP, is a statewide program that helps counties modernize, maintain, and share land information. Counties participate by designating a land information officer, me, creating a land information council chaired by Carol, and maintaining a state-approved land information plan. Funding for the WLIP comes from a portion of the real estate document recording fee that's collected by the Register of Deeds. A portion of that fee is retained by the county. We sometimes just refer to it as retained fees. And those fees must be used for projects that are consistent with the county's approved land information plan. Those funds, along with non-competitive WLIP grants, help support the projects in a variety of departments across the county. The base data that we produce, parcels, orthophotography, the LiDAR data, they also support our local governments, as well as the residents and professionals working or living in Washington County. To give you an idea of the amount of money that we're talking about, in 2025, the retained portion of the WLIP fee was $154,400. And then we also received $1,000 in a training grant and $20,000 for a strategic initiative grant. WLIP revenue is dependent on the number of documents being recorded in the Register of Deeds. A hot real estate market does not necessarily mean more documents being recorded. So in 2023, 2024, and 2025, they are the three lowest document recordings that I have in my records since 1994.
Any questions from the committee? Supervisor Murray? Do you have one? Supervisor Krebs?
Thank you. Just give you a kudos on the GIS access online. It's a wonderful mapping service that I use quite a bit, so
Yeah.
it's definitely appreciated.
Yeah, thanks you for saying that.
You one comment about, or one question, you said that you're expecting orthophotography for 26. Is that something that like, is that just gonna be performed later in the year, like after vegetation comes off the trees, or what's the status of that actually?
How would you like me to answer that?
Or is that related more to?
It's traditionally a project that is coordinated through the Southeastern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. We believe that we will still be getting orthophotography through them for 2026, but there's not a signed agreement. So,
Okay, so that's something that's in collaboration with them.
yeah, and I believe that is one piece of the larger negotiations that's going on at the Regional Planning Commission, of which I'm not part of, so I can't speak to detail on that.
Understood, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, next we have the UW Extension.
Everyone, thank you for having me. So unlike the last speaker, I do not know everybody. So it would be so wonderful if you would just tell me your names, please, before I begin.
Supervisor Brian Krebs, I serve for the town of Hartford and city of Hartford.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Carol Mary from Germantown.
Hi, Carol.
Dennis Kelling, Chairman from West Bend.
Okay, hi.
Barb Horton from Town of Jackson, supervisor from the county board, also town chairman.
Okay, thank you.
You, Mike.
I'm Mike, new owner. I'm staff of the county board.
Oh, okay, okay, see, I'm learning. And then we have somebody on Zoom, so.
Zoom
hi.
would be Supervisor Pam Conrath, and
Okay.
she's, where is she? Town of Polk, correct. Okay.
My,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So my aim, my hope is that I get to know all of you well as time goes on. But I'd like to start by thanking all of you for your civic engagement and your service to Washington County. So as a resident myself, I really appreciate the public service you provide to make Dodge County the greatest place to live, to work, and to raise a family. So as was mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned it, my name is Patty Carroll, and I'm the new Area Extension Director for Washington County, but also the whole Area 14, which includes Columbia County, Dodge County, Ozaukee County, and Fond du Lac counties. And I'm especially pleased to be here tonight because Washington County is my home, Hartford, in fact. So I'm thrilled to meet you all, though. So a little bit about my background, because I'm going to use this opportunity to get to know you a little bit, and I want you to get to know me too before I launch into some of the projects we've been working on, if you'll indulge. So my husband and his brother owned and operated a small business in Dodge County for nearly 30 years. So I have a strong appreciation for the role of local small businesses and how they play a role in strengthening our communities. I also spent about 12 years as a stay-at-home mom, so I get the sacrifices that families make to put bread on the table and money in the savings account for their educations. And I did that while I also continued my education, where I earned a master's degree in family development. But then in 2008, I started a part-time job with an organization that I had never heard of, and that was UW Extension, Washington County. As I learned more about extension and the Wisconsin idea, I was really astonished because the idea that the university in its ivory tower in Madison reaches out to communities astonished me. I'm like, this is what the Wisconsin idea is all about. We bring the research-based education directly to communities where they need it. And we do that through programs like agriculture, youth development, family living or human development, my area of expertise, and community development. And that really resonated with me as a career trajectory, right? Which brings me here today. My work eventually brought me to Dodge County, where I served as the Human Development and Relationships Educator. And in that role, I worked very hard to align the county priorities with my extension programming. So I want to share one example, which will launch me into some of the stuff we're doing here in Washington County. And I often share this with friends and family. So in Dodge County, there was a growing need for support of early childcare, not just in the shortage of quality, high quality childcare, but also in the need to better support the professionals and the small business owners who are running early childcare. So through extension, I was able to secure a grant funding, grant funding to support low cost or no cost professional development for early childcare providers. And you may or may not know, but they're mandated by state law to have 15 hours of professional development. And so that is very cost prohibitive for some small childcare businesses. And I was able to provide that as a resource. And this initiative supported those professionals in a lot of those ways, strengthening those local childcare businesses and ultimately benefiting the families and the employers in that county, in the county I served in Dodge County. So I share it because it's a good example how extension can leverage resources to meet local needs in practical, meaningful ways. And that's my aim as the area director, to support that here in Washington County and all of the counties I serve. So that's the same approach I plan to use here. I want to partner with you all. I want to hear from you. I want to partner with the county executive and with other county departments. I've already learned tonight some areas of interface. And I want to ensure that extension programming aligns with what you all need and what supports county priorities. That's the most important thing. So tonight, I'm going to just briefly highlight the work that's already happening here in Washington County. And so I'm going to pass out these folders if you will indulge. And I'm sorry, I wasn't as prepared as community development. Their package was unbelievable. I looked at it, it was unbelievable. I'm so proud of that work that community development is doing. And so in that packet, and thank you for passing those out for me. In the folder, you'll see our annual report, which I'm still learning how we present that here in Washington County, but I wanted to provide that with you tonight. There's also a brochure about extension programming and a couple of other things that I'm going to go over with you in just a second. I also want to recognize, though, the outstanding work of some of our educators. So Ron is our 4-H youth development educator, and he is doing incredible work in youth leadership through 4-H, helping young people build confidence, leadership skills, and a sense of belonging. He just recently told me that, is it Calumet County or one of the counties up in the Appleton, that tri-county area in Appleton, had reached out to Washington County 4-H to find out how Ron is utilizing youth leadership in leadership roles for 4-H. And so he had a Zoom with them, but now they've invited Ron and his executive board for 4-H to go up there so that they can replicate that program that he's doing, which I think says a lot about Washington County, that we are leaders in areas like that. I also want to highlight Kelly. Kelly has been leading important efforts in workforce development, one of the pillars that community development talked about. And community development works on it way, way upstream. But UW Extension works on it downstream. We work with the young people, and she's providing education in STEM and helping to prepare youth and adults for today's evolving workforce. And she has many different partnerships, and you will see and hear more about that effort as time goes on. My hope is, and I don't have enough for everybody, but I'd like you to take a look at this statewide impact report for youth development, particularly on page 8. I should go to the microphone. Particularly on page 8 and 9, because as area director, you guys, My aim, my hope is that next year Washington County is highlighted in this statewide impact report. This one is on career and college readiness. And I would say career, college, and trade school readiness. I have a child that went to trade school and two of them that went to college. So I believe in trade school readiness as well. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to be featured in the statewide report with the unbelievable work that Kelly Dion has been doing for us in Washington County Extension. And then I also want to just highlight our crops and soils educator. And she partners with local farmers to bring research-based education on soil health, crop management, and conservation, and supporting both the successes of agriculture and the sustainability of our land. In fact, I heard our fella, oh, is he still back there? From land, I'm going to get the language wrong, talking about, I just wrote down the word erosion, because there's resources that extension can provide. In your folder, you also see a couple of like bookmarks, and those are just resources. The Wisconsin Idea, we bring that information. So things like the plant doctor, it's that time of year where people are maybe getting blight on their trees or wanting information about things that are happening in their garden. And there are resources available, even if we don't have a local educator working in those areas. So those are just a couple of examples of how extension is really actively serving Washington County residents across the lifespan. So as I step into this role and get my feet wet, this is, I think, month 4, my goal is to really listen and to learn and to build the strong partnerships with different community entities so that extension can continue to be responsive, relevant, and a valued resource in this county. Thank you. Thank you for the time. I'm really open to any question. I do have a list of commonly asked questions about extension if you need or if you want. I think most of you have served on this committee in the past and might be very well aware of what extension is. But I'm open to answer questions about local programming and or extension at large.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee or comments? Supervisor Krebs.
I'll just take this opportunity to say welcome aboard and
Thank
get
you.
open your new role.
Yeah, it's a lot, the 5 different counties. It's been just such a learning experience, how each of the counties work differently. The 5 I serve, 2 of whom have executives, 2 of whom have administrators, and then 1 county who doesn't have either. And so going to their planning meetings or their organizational meetings and just kind of sitting back and being an observer has been such a interesting thing. And I never thought I would move into this role. But when the opportunity arose when Cindy retired, and I told my husband, it's my home county and I'm going for it. And so here I am. And I'm humbly asking for your support. And if there's anything you ever need, my business card is in there, my card. Reach out to me and let me know the good, bad, the ugly. Like, I'm open to it. So, yeah.
My first and your last names are identical, so we'll get along fine.
Yeah.
I worked with Cindy in the past, and she was based out of Sheboygan. Is your home base going to be over here in Moraine Park?
Yes, it is. My home office is there. It's a little tight over there, and we're hoping to get our crops and soils onboarded. And so, but I want to keep calling you Mary because my last name is Carol, but your name is Carol. Okay, Carol. Yes, my home office is right at MPTC, which I love. And my my residence is right here in Washington County. And I do have to go to those other counties too.
But your base is going to be here.
Yeah, it is. It is. My home office is here. Yep. I think that's good too.
Yes, it is.
Very good. Anything from anybody else?
Okay.
Well, I would like to also, oh, sorry, Mr. Hart.
Our educators are absolutely, yes. Ron and Kelly. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. It is a premier program and it is excellent. It is our anchor. Agriculture you know, our societies have changed, they've ebbed and flowed. And there was a time in extension, not that long ago, where county offices had four ag agents or 2 ag agents specializing in certain areas. And our ag agents are still very important. And there are lots of ways to get information, and we know that. But youth development is very tactile, very hands-on. Yeah, we need those really good educators. So thank you for that support.
And Supervisor Hartwig is also the owner and operator of Cedar Creek Farms. So he's,
Oh,
was
yeah.
that?
Cedar Creek. I think it said Cedar Creek.
See, I think what it is?
Cedarburg.
Cedarburg Creek.
Okay, yeah,
Cedarburg Creek.
okay.
So he also donates our Christmas tree, and he also does a great pumpkin farm in the fall. So he's got a little bit of knowledge about farming, that's for sure.
Dennis, I got reprimanded a week and a half ago for my grandson. I jumped out of a tractor cab forward and my knee is hurting yet today, but it's got a lot better. And my grandson's dad, grandpa, don't you know you don't jump forward out? That's the first thing they teach in tractor safety. I think you didn't go to that.
Yeah,
And just right in front of the 4-H lady.
and the state did just hire a tractor safety coordinator. Because we know our counties, you know, with budgets and everything being so tight, we are trying to figure out ways to serve our counties in an efficient way, but also be present here locally. It's very important that we continue our partnership together. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you and welcome aboard, Miss Carol. We'll look forward to working with you and feel free to drop in on our meetings and just see us. So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I had a meeting with Jamie, and we are considering, and I want to warmly invite you to maybe have one of your committee meetings, one in which extension is highlighted again. I know we're on a rotation, but to have it out at MPTC. We have a beautiful conference room, and we would really like to showcase some of the work that we're doing with MPTC around STEM programming. So if that's something to consider, maybe we can work together to plan maybe a fall meeting that we have out at MPTC, and then you can all see our digs.
Oh,
Coordinate that with your STEM education program, I think would be excellent.
Yeah. I
I'll
agree.
look forward to hearing from Jamie on that and
Okay.
see what she comes up with.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We will move on to item 3B, the 2026 resolution. It's an advisory resolution requesting state legislature to establish policies giving local elected bodies greater control in the regulation of large wind and solar projects in the interest of performing or preserving farmland, something that's this committee's been very involved with. And presenting today, the author and creator, our very dear friend, Supervisor Bailey. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairman Kelling and committee members for considering this proposal today in the Land Use and Planning Committee. This resolution is straightforward. It asserts that local governments should have the authority to oversee the development of large solar and wind energy projects in Washington County and around Wisconsin. It urges our state legislature to amend state statutes to grant us this control, ensuring that decisions about land use reflect our community's priorities and needs. Washington County takes pride in its rich farming heritage and natural resources. I am leading this resolution because I am concerned about the unchecked expansion of solar and wind energy projects in our local communities and around the state. Washington County is known for its rural landscape and commitment to preserving farmland. These resources must be protected not only for current residents, but for generations to come. Solar and wind energy projects are often proposed on agricultural and forestry lands. Improper construction and poor site management can lead to soil compaction, erosion, and habitat disruption. This resolution is not opposing clean energy production, but it must be done safely and respect for the land, resources, and people around it. With thoughtful planning and proper oversight, renewable energy projects can happen without sacrificing valuable farmland or natural resources. Clear guidelines and safeguards must be established for these projects. The state legislature should set policies that give local elected bodies a greater voice regarding the placement and location of solar and wind installations. Included in your packet is a press release from a state lawmaker who authored an amendment to a solar energy bill, which contains provisions that would enact these changes in state law. Proposals like this are precisely what we need to ensure responsible development. Thank you again for your time and consideration. I urge the committee to support this resolution and advocate for legislative changes that empower local governments to protect our county's resources. I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Supervisor Bailey. Before I take questions, I also have a few prepared remarks. First of all, I really appreciate this resolution coming forward. We often hear about large solar and wind projects coming to the local area, and there's going to be a lot of questions that go with that. Wisconsin is the dairy state for a reason. Wisconsin's agricultural economic impact has grown to 116 billion. Over 4 billion comes from Washington County alone, and helps to put food on the table for people all over the state and the world. Our farmland should be protected by the elected officials in this state, and we have done that on this committee. Allowing for more local control in the development of large wind and solar projects would help answer questions from the public concerning the impact on the land, natural resources, and the local community. One of the loudest complaints heard when a project moves forward in a community is that the public was cut out of the discussion and decision, and there is simply not enough information given. And on a personal note, driving truck across this state, I can tell you I've seen hundreds of acres of what was once fertile farmland converted to wind and solar projects, especially the solar projects. Hundreds. I'm looking out over a sea of solar panel that used to be productive farmland. This additional local control would also give the local representatives of a community an important opportunity to provide feedback to these developers. And something that we're hearing more about in the news is the issue of foreign adversaries like China buying up more of our farmland. As more and more land is bought up by foreign adversaries, this issue will continue to be relevant in agriculturally strong communities in states like Wisconsin. And I will also add that there is legislation being considered and put forward in the state capitol regarding this issue. And several counties have also started to look into this as well. So it's a very timely bit that you're bringing forward to this committee. Do we have any questions from the committee? Supervisor Mary?
A couple comments and questions, Marietta. It was my understanding from some time back that under federal law, local governments are restricted from how they might restrict solar and wind power projects. And I don't know, perhaps that's been changed. But if you recall, let's go back 15 years ago up here in Fond du Lac area, when they were developing that up on top that the Niagara Escarpment area just north of Eden up there. You had farms that said, no solar, no solar, no solar. And the problem was local governments couldn't do anything about it because the federal laws were written such that they couldn't, because this way they could move in, and local governments, you couldn't have a hodgepodge of here and there and so on. You could allow it in certain townships, but not in others and so on. But perhaps that has changed, and I hope it has. And and in that regard, good luck. I hope it has been changed. The other question I have is, how do you define large? A large wind and solar project siting. How is large defined? I mean, is that based on the number of units?
Megawatts, 15 megawatts or bigger.
Okay. But 15 megawatts over what area? Is that on a property basis? Is that on a quarter section of land on 160 acres? I mean, what was 100, that megawatt based on what area of land? I mean, what restriction?
Well, I can say this, our land out back where we have a solar field set up, uh, is a pretty sizable chunk of land. I'm guessing probably about 5 acres. That's 1 megawatt.
Okay.
So if you're talking 15, that's 15 times 5. That is a lot. And you believe me, that's not even that large. I've seen them, like I said, 500 acres.
Oh, yeah, and if you go out north of Las Vegas, I mean, it's hundreds of acres of solar panels, but again, what else you got? It's all
You can-
desert.
You can go right around Brilliant and
Yeah.
see that exact same thing.
And I'm encouraging you to pursue this. I'm just curious as to a definition on this. You're based on your megawatts, like you said, that could be a lot of land. But one of the negatives I have against solar, and we've seen this if you drive through Madison down 151 towards Dubuque area, up on some of those ridges, which is some beautiful farmland. Granted, it may not be the richest farmland in the world just because of billions of years of erosion, but you've got literally miles of solar panels being put in, and that land is being taken out of productive agriculture. Now, I understand a wind tower after so many years, and if you go back 25 years ago, there were no contracts on this. When it's all said and done, who's got to take it down? And there were no contracts in. Now that's all part of the contracting process. There has to be money escrowed to set aside, and when the time is done, they got to remove it, or they have to continue. Someone has to pay for that being done. And I know in the Texas area where they've been into solar for 2 or 3 decades now, one of the problems they have, what do you do with those fan blades? I mean, they're fiberglass and plywood. What do you do with them? You can't just grind them up. They have to go into a landfill somewhere. So, I mean, there are some very strong negatives against it. And I'm not real sure the Trump administration is very strong in their support for some of the solar and the wind. And one of the negatives I have personally about the solar, what do you do with that land? I mean, okay, you got all these panels covering all this land. You say, well, you plant, you raise sheep. Well, I'm not sure Wisconsin got the greatest market for sheep. When you're all said and done, you got to do something with the sheep to keep the weeds down, weeds are going to find their way in no matter what you do. You can plant all the pollinator crops you want to in there, but weeds are going to take over eventually, and you can't mow under it. You can't get under it with equipment. So how are you going to contain that? And that's again, my personal feelings on this. I'm all for what you're doing. But I'm just afraid that it could be an uphill battle.
Well, that's why we want the state legislature to amend their statute so we have more control.
Yes, I would love to see more control into it. But I mean, if I'm not mistaken, years ago when solar was getting all the popularity, the feds kept everybody else out. Once you got the contract in, no one could stop you. I mean, it was kind of a free for all. And I'm hoping that some of that legislation, some of the regulations have changed.
We'll have to
I
have staff
strongly
look
support
into
it.
that.
I would encourage the group to support it.
And I would say this, that even if that were true, and it could very well be, I have no idea. It's actions like this that go forth to the legislature, that go forth to the federal, that, our voices get heard. A bunch of citizens can get together and petition us, and we petition the state petitions the feds. And so you never know, you can get this action to go all the way up to that level if it were true. So any other questions for Marietta? Supervisor Krebs?
Thank you. Could you dig into a little bit more of what you're looking for as far as increase in local control? Because I'm not sure what we're missing to start with. Locally,
Controlling.
don't we control, the locals already control zoning and what the allowable uses of the zoning are. So what additional capacity do the local governments need to say yes or no to these types of projects, I guess?
I guess, yes, location, size.
Isn't that something they already control though by their zoning code?
No.
Well, you
Uh,
can't put a solar, wind or solar in, let's say, a residentially zoned district,
But if it's agricultural, they can.
only if their zoning code allows for
I don't
those
know
types of
the
uses.
zoning-
I don't know that.
if
I don't
zoning
know,
codes
I
are
don't know
allowed
what
to touch
state
it.
statutes override local zoning codes to start with. So I would look for more information on what changes the state is going to change that you're looking for, change that would enable the locals to have greater control over it.
Have you been approached, Bob? Have you been approached by anybody saying, hey, you've got 10 acres, we'd love to put some solar panels on it?
Oh, it's already in the town base.
Yeah.
But we haven't had anybody since, you know. Nobody has come to us about it.
Right now, if I read the resolution on line for page one, roughly 3940-ish, it says the advocate for the established policies that would give local elected bodies greater control in the regulation of large wind and solar projects. I'd like to know more about what's handcuffing the local municipalities now, or what areas do they need to have changed to enable them? 'Cause right now, I'm under the impression that with the local zoning control, it's up to them to amend their local zoning rules and regulations appropriately to whether regulate or outright ban or whatever they want to see done with their communities.
Well, the bill that's referenced in the packet,
Mhm.
for any solar or wind project of 15 megawatts or more, the bill requires the developer to obtain approval from every city, village, and town where the project will be located before the Public Service Commission can issue a certificate of authority or public convenience and necessity. Municipalities have 90 days to approve or deny any resolution with limited extension options.
So currently, like, was it that if a developer gets a PSC approval, that, are you saying that there's no local approval needed? Like, I'm not part of energy projects ever, but general development, construction projects, that always goes through the planning commission,
Mhm.
councils and boards, local boards to start with. So I just don't know if there's a different development path flow chart for these types of projects that somehow bypasses the typical approvals that I'm used to seeing or not. So I'm not sure what we're asking the state to change,
Well, I think the key word there is before it goes to the PSC. Once this item goes to the PSC, basically local control will make no difference. They are a much stronger body than we are, obviously. So if it can come to us first, then that is the change we're looking for in legislation. Now, and it also can be that the legislators could decide to give even more or less local control than that as well. I mean, we're asking for the resolution to craft a bill to give us greater control than what we have now, which I don't believe our normal zoning laws are enough. I don't think that they actually can stop solar at this point or wind farms. I think that is actually covered under the PSC.
Well, I think that twofold. First, this resolution does not reference the PSC at all or anything. It just says encourage greater local control. So it doesn't, it's not really attacking what seems to be the issue that our discussion is focusing on, which is, and more of an education standpoint for me and for other supervisors. I would guess that I don't understand the typical flow chart of how these projects are what their approval and permitting process looks like to start with. But I'm just using, let's say, City of Hartford zoning code, which I'm more familiar with. If I don't have particular proper zoning within that, I'm not allowed to put up a telecommunication tower or different structures like this. I'm talking small scale, whether it's solar or wind. I don't think that zoning code even references, it puts caps on sizes of those types of developments. So I would view that they're probably all viewed the same under the local planner's purview. So I guess understanding where whether it's a PSC or whichever state agency or federal agency who's taking away the local planners' control to start with. I
Well,
don't
and yeah,
understand
and
that.
then that kind of gets back to what I was saying is that these projects uh usually go through the PSC and stuff like that. But in overall, in this resolution, we're encouraging that the legislature provide it. We're not necessarily encouraging specifics as far as well, if it's anything over 1 megawatt and so many acres of land, because when you try to create a resolution that directs the state, it's usually less kindly received and usually kind of has well, we're not going to do that, as opposed to leaving it a little bit more open-ended and giving them some opportunities for local control. It then allows you to get something a little bit better than what you currently have.
I'm just having the disconnect of, I don't know what the problem is that we're trying to solve. Because just because a large scale or mega project, whatever the terminology is I'm not aware of local control ever being taken away from input and develop on these projects. Like, anytime I put a shovel in the ground, I need a building permit. So I would assume that these need building permits too. Building
Theirs
permits
are a little
locally-
bit different from
Well,
from
that-
yours,
when
you
you
know,
say
that's
different, that I don't understand. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So before I say give us more control, I want to know what control we lack to start with. Like, I'm having that disconnect there because I don't know what the real issue is.
yeah. Okay, well, that's a reasonable question.
Mhm.
But again, as I state, a lot of times, when we do these resolutions, they're more about giving a guidance, but not necessarily a specific,
Cheerleaders.
yeah, saying
I
like,
don't know what I'm cheerleading.
well, and we spent a lot of money and a lot of time in the last session, as you can recall, in preserving farmland. We've spent millions of dollars with the Cedar Lakes Conservation Foundation, trying to get farmland tied up in easements and things like that. And it'd be a shame to see a bunch of farmland turned over to a bunch of solar panels. It's an ugly thing.
That's the other component about this. This is specifically towards preserving a farmland. Are we neutral on brownfield redevelopment of sites that would be converted into solar or wind?
I would think that's a great question for Supervisor
I would
Bailey.
think Washington County has a large tracts of brownfield areas that would support projects like that to start with. But
Probably not that large, no.
correct, but just saying this is specifically geared towards farmland, so
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, if you wanted to go over to the Walmart parking lot and cover the parking lot in solar panels, okay. I mean, I don't think that I would have a big problem with that. And that's actually been something that's been discussed. Large building, solar panel sites, parking lot, especially like at airports where they have massive parking lots where you could actually have cars that would have shade on them rather than laying out in the sun, and also use, giant solar collection fields. To me, that actually makes sense. It's something that, you can basically get a dual use out of the land. When you put solar farms on farm fields, you start growing weeds, as Supervisor Mary, called. You're not growing, soy and corn anymore. You're growing weeds and wildflowers, and electricity, and I think that's really a poor use of our farmland. I think really keeping them in production would be something that would be better suited than solar farms. So just my 2 cents. Chairman Schleif.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that Supervisor Mary was correct in his first statement that there are federal laws that kind of handcuff the locals on regulation when they want to build something like this. But I'm not positive. So I would suggest that we move this towards a full board And in the meantime, Mike can do some research and get all the answers that you're looking for. And we can deal with it that way. I think it's a good idea, and I've seen a lot of other counties do similar resolutions. So I know there's something out there that we're trying to get accomplished.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I wouldn't care if there was a federal law, because this is how you redress your grievances right here. You know, we're also a governmental body, and we can go to our federally elected leaders and put pressure on them that, hey, you know, we don't want Cedarburg Creek Farms to turn into a giant solar field. You know, that's not what we're about here in Washington County. Like I said, I've spent the last 2 years fighting for preserving land here in Washington County. I'll be damned if I'll see it go up to solar farms. Supervisor Krebs?
Couple things. I'll vote yes today just to move it along as the chairman asked and suggested, and I'm fine with that. But I definitely need to understand before the county board vote, understanding what the problems are, what's locally, what are we handcuffed for, what are we actually asking, a little bit more detail into that. But also too, I would caution, and I hope that maybe we could put some language into this, or, you know, to pass along that the state weighs in on and puts the right language in, that we're also respecting the personal property's rights.
Yep.
You say you don't want to see Cedar Creek Farms become solar fields. What if those farmers do though? They own the land, not the general public. So
Fair point.
yes, there's a community aspect to it, but there's also personal property rights to it, that if I want to build solar on my own land, I still can do solar on my own land, or whatever the resource is at that point.
They're gonna get a contract for so many thousands of dollars over so many years, and darn right they're gonna take it.
Whether it's a solar field or a cell tower.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Like the same, when that one came to the town by us, that farm, the town hall was full of people. Nobody wanted it. All of a sudden the farmer got up. He says, okay, you don't want to see solar panels? He says, goats are gonna take care of the weeds, because they were concerned about the weeds, stuff like that. He says, all right, you don't want that? 189 houses are getting built in here. I got a developer. Yep. That'll buy it tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah. All of a sudden, all the people said, put the panels there. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm not, it's as honest God truth. I'm telling you, that's how it went.
It's a very real argument.
Yeah.
Here's my option. I can sell it to a developer to build houses, or I can keep the land in agriculture, so to speak, still zoned agriculture, because technically it still is, and you can put your solar panels on it. But if I wants to do something with that land, it's my right to do that.
I think it was a deal 40 years, and after 40 years, they're gonna remove everything. It's gotta be back to farm
Yep.
fields.
And the deal is, they say the solar is dug down 6 deep, which is below your agricultural production zone. So therefore, all we gotta remove the stuff is off the surface, and everything else just stays there. And the wind towers, it's about a 12 by 12 or 16 by 16 foot pit full of concrete. And they dig that out, chop it up, and refill it again. It goes back to farmland. Yeah.
All right, Supervisor Krebs, you got one final statement, or you?
Sure, that conversation we just had is literally what the local control is for, where they can have that discussion at the planning commission at another meeting. So that's exactly what I want to still be able to happen. So it's understanding why is that not happening now, or that's where I'm not understanding
No
that,
development's locked down.
development pattern. So,
Okay.
thank you.
So thank you very much for that. And
May I make a suggestion, Marietta? In a future presentation, you talk about 160 megawatts, whatever it is. This equates to how many solar panels or how many wind towers of certain sizes, so people can get an idea. What are we talking about here?
Okay.
I mean, yeah, you're talking about 160 megawatts. How many solar panels in there? That would take up how much land? I mean, just an example, so someone can relate to what you're talking in terms of volume of the project.
Okay,
that would be helpful. I think. I'm all for this. I think it should go forward.
And I will note that our chief of staff, Mike, is also taking furious notes over here. And I'm sure we'll put in a hefty amount of research and I think hopefully we can maybe run a little bit cleaner on this when it gets, through to the full board.
I make no promises.
No promises are kept. Yeah, I mean, this is committee. This is just to pass it to the full board.
Yep.
At full board, then it's the Super Bowl and we go ahead and we argue and fight it out. But your input and your comments are always well liked and well received because you guys both did a great job of bringing up some very important points. And I think now you're a little bit more prepared, or will be with a little bit of the chief of staff's help, to be able to answer those questions when it gets to the full board.
Thank you.
But having said that, I will also entertain a motion to move this forward. So motion by Supervisor Krebs. Do I have a second? Seconded by Supervisor Mary. So all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And with Conrad's vote, that is
Aye, yeah.
all right. And we are unanimous. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to speak earlier. I was trying.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even see you on the screen. All I saw was P. Conrad.
Yeah,
saw.
it was black. But
Okay.
I want to thank Supervisor Barry for bringing this forward, especially as the individual who initially raised and created the resolution for farmland preservation and the grant program. And I think this brings up, the bigger concern of incentives for landowners to preserve their land and not turn it into solar fields or subdivisions. And, what can we do further to help support that or encourage it at the state level? And then this also brings up the data center concerns that are out there. So I
Supervisor
appreciate
Conrad.
us moving things forward.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to get into that bucket of worms right at this moment because that would not be pertinent to this particular resolution. And that
Yes,
could
I
be something that we
understand
might
that.
pick up in the future. So
Yes,
we don't want to
yeah,
necessarily.
we started with the farmland preservation, and now Supervisor Bailey's, bringing forward this resolution. And then two, to sustain our thoughts and concerns that are out there, to in the future address the data centers and what we can do.
Thank you very much for your statements. I appreciate that. So we have voted on that. We are all good. We can now move on to our final piece. And our next item is the proposed certified survey map on East Newark Drive, Town of Trenton. Please let us know who you are, young lady.
Thank you, Chairman Kelling. My name is Hannah Keckeisen. I am the Senior Municipal Planner for the Community Development Department for Washington County. I am in charge of reviewing land divisions that come into our towns. So the one you'll see in front of you is a proposed CSM on East Newark Drive in the town of Trenton. It is a proposed redivision of 3 lots. And because of Chapter 257 and that it states that we are to review lots that are being created or being replatted that are 3 parcels or 3 or more parcels in the shoreline zone that are 5 acres or less, we would review this against our land division ordinance. So these lots are proposed to be replatted to allow for lake access for lot 2, as well as road frontage. Lots 2 and 3 will share a driveway with an easement that runs with the land. And the outlot connects the southern parcel to the road as well. So Summit Shores subdivision was originally platted in 1968. However, this road that was supposed to connect these lots was never actually constructed, and it no longer meets the town of Trenton's road standards. So in 2025, the town of Trenton discontinued and vacated Shorecrest Circle, and the land essentially was combined with the adjacent lots. These lots do fall within the shoreline zone and have delineated wetlands that have identified 25-foot setbacks identified on the CSM. So the future land use for these lots is primary environmental corridor. However, since these lots were created in 1968, it was determined that no comprehensive plan amendment was required. So you'll see on the CSM that there are just a couple notes that were added onto the CSM that no soil can be disturbed without a shoreline permit from the Natural Resources Department. And you'll also see a separate note that identifies that it's recommended to preserve as many trees as possible to minimize the disturbance of the primary environmental corridor. Otherwise, it does follow the Land Division Ordinance, Chapter 257. Therefore, it is recommended that the committee approve the proposed CSM on East New York Drive located in the town of Trenton. And I will be happy to answer any questions.
And I will also note that currently the town of Trenton has signed off on this, as well as the city of West Bend. So are there any questions from the committee? Supervisor Krebs.
You made a comment about minimal tree removal.
Mhm.
Where was that note that you referenced?
It is specifically a recommendation. If you go to the second to last page, or I'm sorry, the third last page, it's a part of the actual CSM, the Certified Survey Map, page 3 of 5 on there. You'll see the notes on the bottom.
What happens if a future property owner wants to cut the trees?
It's specifically a recommendation, so it's not a requirement.
That's kind of what I wanted to
Mhm.
confirm. Okay.
Any other questions? Chairman Schleif.
The southernmost lot is pretty much wetland or shoreland. Is there something buildable there?
Yes, there is. So you'll see the dotted line on that same page 3 of 5. It
Mhm.
has the delineated wetland, and then there, as part of the shoreland ordinance, for the county, there's a 25-foot setback from there. So, it's about a 40-foot wide, buildable area that they can fit in there. So it still has the capability of constructing. It would be up to the landowner to determine how that would go, but there is buildable land within the setback, and it is on municipal sewer, so they don't have to worry about a septic system.
Thank you.
Supervisor Krebs.
2 other questions. First, you said town of Trenton, is it?
Correct.
They've conceptually, or they've given their approval to this lot configuration?
So the town of Trenton has approved it, and the city of West Bend, since it falls within extraterritorial review. The landowner actually did not know that the county needed to approve it, so they went through all those avenues a couple months ago, and this was the last step for them.
It's just some of these lots are very irregularly shaped,
Mhm.
so there again, in the spirit of local zoning control, if it conforms with their lot configuration size and shapes.
Because it was created in 1968, that's how those lots were established, probably well before the town's current zoning. I'm not entirely sure when the last time the town of Trenton updated their code. However, since the town decided to vacate that land for the Shorecrest Circle, they're well aware of what the lots are configured to look like right now.
Okay, and then on that page 3 of 5 CSM, on the east side or the right side of the page, it says outlot 1.
Mhm.
Is that outlot 1 being creative with these lots? Is that a new outlot being created?
That land currently exists that was the last section of the vacated land. So that is owned by the property owner to the south. So they're just setting aside that outlot for that landowner, so they have driveway access.
Okay, so who owns out lot one then? Is
I-
that
I
one-
bel-
One of the lot 1, 2, or 3 on this CSM, or is that owned by that other property?
I believe that is the property owner to the south.
Okay, just wondering if there needed to be any type of a association for ownership of
Mm,
things like that, if it was part of these 3 lots, so. That would be the only other concern I have. Thank you.
Yeah, I think originally when they designed this whole deal here was to give access to that lot with a driveway,
Yeah.
basically. And then also to give access to lot 2 to the lake. So they get a small, basically pathway down to the lake, maybe enough to shove a boat in the water or something like that. Obviously, lake access property is much more desired than landlocked
Mhm.
property would be. So I could certainly understand why the lots were designed this way back in 1968, was it?
Yeah, so the original subdivision actually did not have lot 2 having any lake access, which is, again, based on what you said, very interesting, but that is why it's coming for you today, is because the landowner who owns all 3 lots is proposing to reconfigure or replat the lands to have that lake access.
Which I think is very prudent. All right, any other questions from the committee? All right, I will entertain a motion to approve. Supervisor Mary, do I have a second? Supervisor Hartwig?
I would hate that this committee, and I said, oh crap, I gotta take it to the county too. And once you got past everybody else who gets up here, yeah, we should agree.
Funny story. He actually came to me and said, hey, you gotta sign this. I said, I don't think I should. So we got that all worked out. So in the end, it all came out just fine. So I'm sure he'll, if we get this taken care of, he'll be a happy guy. All right, all in favor, say aye. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I did second Hartford. Yeah. I did it right. All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Supervisor Conrath? Supervisor Conrath, you there? All right, well, the ayes have it regardless, so we will consider that passed. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you
your
all.
presentation. All right, that pretty much takes care of all of our business. Our next meeting is July 16th, 2026 at 4:30 p.m.